What should parents be aware of to watch for in terms of their child's mental health?
So I talked about anxiety, right? That like excessive nervousness that's getting in the way for them. Like everyone has worry, but when it's getting in the way of them being able to do schoolwork, being able to interact with other people, being able to leave the house, being able to do certain tasks, that's something that is getting farther and farther away from that normal level of anxiety. If they're having freeze responses, for example, people, if they've heard of like fight or flight before, like if you get really anxious, you're gonna get aggressive or like kind of fight out of that situation, or you're gonna run away from that situation or avoid it. Freeze is another one of those responses that's less known.
Okay.
But that's kind of like, I'm so scared, I'm so nervous, I can't move. Like I physically or verbally cannot do anything right now. So if you're seeing instances like that, again, that's one of those things that I would encourage you pretty strongly to try to seek some support around. The other piece is really depression, right? So we've all been isolated, but if it's your kid doesn't really want to come out of their room, they're saying that they're sad, they're either sleeping too much or too little, their eating habits have changed where they're all of a sudden eating everything, and it's not something that the doctor's like, oh yeah, it's a growth spurt, or if they're saying, hey, I'm not eating like much of anything, there's no motivation's another hard one during the pandemic. That's another common one for a lot of people where there's not much motivation right now. But hopelessness, like just not wanting to do much. Suicidal ideation and self-harm has also increased over the pandemic because of a lot of those feelings again. Feeling disconnected from friends, feeling like you don't fit in, feeling like this is never gonna end. Parents should know that if their kid's self-harming, it's never the parent's fault. I get that a lot from the parents.
Okay, that's good, yeah.
They also question, like, how did I not know? If your kid wants to self-harm, a lot of the times, like, there's a lot of shame, there's a lot of guilt, they're gonna hide that from you. That's not something that you can force your child to be telling you about, right? But if they do come to you with that, try so hard to like hold those feelings inside and just say, hey, like, we're gonna get you some help. And then the way that help looks is you need to bring them to the ER. And I know that's scary. I know no parent wants to do that, but you need to make sure that your child's safe, whether it's, all right, we just need to make sure that these cuts are looked at, cleaned, like disinfected. Do we need stitches? Do we not need stitches? Did you burn yourself on purpose? Like, how are we gonna treat this burn? Do you need like a higher level of mental health care right now to really take care of that? And I know it's scary, parents, you can talk to the social worker one-on-one after that. You can get some supports for you, but I don't want to say the worst thing because that sounds really bad, but a lot of the things that I hear from my kids is like, I really wanted to be honest with my mom, but she got so upset with me that it just made me feel so much worse. They already feel so much shame and so much guilt over that behavior. And it's a really big thing that they're actually reaching out for help. It doesn't mean anything negative about the parents. I know it's scary. You can definitely, as a parent, get support around that and what that means, and how to safely support a child that's struggling with that. But as much as you can, try to have some caregiver affect management, which means not having a big response on your face. Try to keep it as neutral as possible while also showing that you care.
That's an extreme case, as you're saying, but it is happening with your experience, would you say? So if a parent is concerned about their child's mental health, do you suggest the first step being a conversation with them?
So I'm hesitating because I'm thinking about all the different scenarios, and there's no like cut and dry answer, right? It also really depends on the relationship between the parent and the child. If you have an open relationship, then yes, 100% start with that. Anyway, please start with that conversation of, hey, I've noticed this, I'm concerned, I want to be able to help you, I care about you, you're not going to be in trouble. And then from there, it's you're gonna figure out, you know, is this something that does require more care? Is this outside of my like area of expertise? And unless you're a mental health professional, usually it is at that point, especially if we're talking about self-harm or suicidal ideation. There are a bunch of resources within each community for those things. I mentioned the ER. That's typically what I have parents go to because the ERs take most health insurances. It's also the quickest way to get some intervention happening. There are things like mobile crisis. That's a number that you call, but I know from experience that sometimes those wait times have been hours when after parents have called, and that's nothing bad against mobile crisis, but it's also showing, you know, there's so much need in terms of mental health that if you can safely get your child to an ER, do that. If it's not something that's life-threatening, if it's, you know, they're just really depressed, they're really anxious, then I would encourage you to really seek mental health treatment. And a lot of people don't know how to do that. Some people will go to the pediatrician. The pediatrician can recommend people who take their insurance. I think my favorite route is to send parents to a website called Psychology Today. You can, on that website, filter through, you know, where's your area, what insurance are you taking, what age group are you looking for, what are some of the different struggles that your child's having, and you'll find people who meet all of that criteria, and it'll filter out everyone so that you're not calling 200 different people getting like, oh yeah, like I have an opening but I only see adults. And it's nice because it gives you a little blurb about each therapist, so you can kind of see like, all right, is this going to be a good fit? Is this not going to be a good fit? And then there's agencies like Elliott and Riverside and I think Family Continuity.
No, I think that's good. I think it's important because you're covering all bases of of children. You know, you first talked about anxiety and depression, and then it can lead into more extreme cases, and it's really hitting on the parent that it's not their fault, and the child they're not in trouble is key, and hopefully you have that open conversation. But if you don't, or you feel helpless yourself as an adult in the situation, that there are agencies and services out there for you, and if you are at a point of an emergency, there is the emergency room that you can help, and that you're saying that's the best way to get rapid the quickest way, I guess. Or
in my experience, yes, like, you know that they're going to take your insurance. I've heard mixed reviews. Honestly, I'm not 100% sure if this is true about whether mobile crisis only takes Mass Health, but there's a cost there. So I'm also trying to be cognizant of most people's finances right now are not where we want them to be. But yes, that is the most efficient way to get eyes on for a mental health evaluation.